through the cracked windows of time, a Voyager's love for the unknown. The wind howled softly through the narrow metallic corridors of the starship Eclipsera. Outside, the vastness of the universe shimmered like an endless ocean made of glass and starlight. Within its silent halls, a lone traveler named Arion walked slowly, his footsteps echoing faintly on the floor. His reflection flickered on the cracked observation window, a reminder of the day when time itself had fractured. Arion wasn't an ordinary Voyager. He had lived longer than anyone should. Once a scientist from the planet Vareth, he had joined a mission to explore the folds of time, a project meant to open the gates of eternity. But something had gone wrong. The experiment tore space open and trapped him between timelines. Now, centuries had passed, and he drifted endlessly, crossing the layers of existence, searching for something, someone, that he could no longer remember. The Eclipsera had become his only companion. Its voice, calm and artificial, guided him through the void. "Arion," it said gently, "we are approaching the remnant fields. Shall I adjust the temporal shields?" "Yes," Arion replied, his tone distant. "Do it. We don't want another crack in the window of time." He looked once more at the damaged viewport. The cracks formed strange patterns, almost like veins of light running across the glass. Through them, he could see not just stars, but echoes, faint visions of other moments, other worlds. Sometimes he thought he saw faces. Sometimes he thought he heard laughter. It was as if the window itself remembered the lives that had once passed through time. When he first noticed the visions, he believed it was madness born from isolation. But over the years, he realized the truth. The ship's temporal core had connected him to fragments of history. He could see the past and future bleed together like paint on water. Every time he stared through those cracks, he glimpsed worlds he never knew existed. That was how he saw her for the first time. A figure appeared in one of the glowing fractures, soft, radiant, and human. She stood on the edge of a cliff beneath a stormy sky. Her hair danced in the wind as she gazed upward, eyes filled with wonder. Arion had never met her, yet his heart felt something ancient stir within him. The ship's systems flickered when she appeared, as if reality itself hesitated to let her image pass. "Who are you?" he whispered. But the vision vanished, swallowed by time. Days passed, though in the endless drift of the void, days had no meaning. The Eclipsera glided through broken fragments of forgotten galaxies, across fields of frozen light. Arion spent most of his time near the cracked window, waiting for her to return. The ship's AI began to notice his obsession. "Arion," it said one evening, "your heart rate increases each time you look into the fracture. May I suggest a recalibration of your neural state?" "No," he answered softly. "She'll come back. I know she will." He didn't understand why he felt this connection. It wasn't just curiosity, it was longing, deep and ancient. It was as if his soul recognized her from a life long gone. Perhaps, he thought, love itself was another form of time travel, a bridge between what was and what could be. Then one cycle later, the image returned. This time, she was closer. She stood beside a pool of glowing water, her reflection rippling beneath the light of twin moons. She looked directly toward him, as if she could see through time and glass, through centuries and stars. Her lips moved, forming words he couldn't hear. "Can you hear me?" he asked desperately, pressing his hand against the window. The cracks glowed brighter, responding to his voice. For a brief moment, he thought he felt her touch, warm, real. Then came the explosion of light. The Eclipsera shuddered violently. Alarms echoed through the ship as sparks burst from the control panels. "Warning," the ship's voice said urgently. "Temporal field destabilizing. Unknown interference detected." Arion staggered to the console. "What's happening?" "The fractures are reacting to an external source, possibly to her," the AI responded. "Reality distortion levels are rising." Through the window, the image of the woman grew stronger. Around her, space twisted and pulsed. She was no longer just a vision. She was breaking through. "Arion," her voice finally reached him, soft as a whisper carried by starlight. You've been lost too long. He froze, eyes wide. You can hear me. Who are you? I'm the echo of what you loved and what you forgot. The ship trembled again, the cracks widening like lightning across the glass. System integrity failing, the AI warned. We must seal the fracture. No, Arion shouted. If you seal it, I'll lose her. He pressed his hand to the glass. The world beyond shimmered. He could almost feel the air from her world, smell the storm, hear the sound of distant waves. Please, he whispered, tell me your name. She smiled sadly. You once called me Lyra. And just like that, the vision shattered into 1,000 glowing fragments, scattering through the darkness. The ship's alarms went silent. The cracks dimmed, leaving only faint lines of silver light. Arion sank to the floor, breath trembling. Lyra. The name echoed in his mind like an old song remembered after centuries of silence. She had been real once. A scientist like him. His partner in the experiment that fractured time. The explosion, the light, and then nothing. He had forgotten her for so long that time itself had begun to forget him. The AI broke the silence. Arion, your neural patterns indicate distress. I remembered her, he said quietly. I finally remembered who she was. Outside, the stars shifted. Somewhere in the endless void, he felt the pull of something new, an energy signature unlike any he had encountered before. It pulsed faintly, as if calling to him. She's out there, Arion whispered. Somewhere across the cracked windows of time. He stood up, his resolve returning. Eclipsera, set course for the signal source. Coordinates locked, the AI confirmed. But Arion, this path leads beyond the stable regions of spacetime. I know, he said. That's where she is. And so the Eclipsera turned, its engines flaring to life. The ship plunged into the shimmering horizon, leaving trails of fractured light in its wake. Behind them, the broken window glowed softly, whispering memories of a love that refused to die, even when time itself tried to erase it. The voyage through the unknown had begun again. The Eclipsera sliced through the fabric of the void like a silver arrow, trailing faint ribbons of fractured light. Outside its hull, stars warped and bent into spirals of color. Space wasn't behaving as it should. Time rippled around them, flickering between centuries. Sometimes Arion saw constellations that no longer existed, and other times he saw ones that hadn't yet been born. The ship's AI broke the silence. Arion, temporal distortion levels are increasing. We are crossing into unstable regions. Stay the course, Arion replied, tightening his grip on the control column. We're following her signal. 4 days, or perhaps weeks. He chased faint energy pulses across the void. Each one carried a familiar resonance, the same frequency that had once defined Lyra's voice. It was as if the universe itself had preserved her presence, scattered across the broken mirrors of time. He barely slept. The walls of the ship hummed softly with energy, and sometimes, when he closed his eyes, he could hear her whisper, Arion. He would open his eyes, and she'd be gone, only the cracked glass staring back at him. One cycle, the signal grew stronger. Eclipsera, he said, give me a reading. Source detected, the AI responded. Approximate location, within the chrono rift, a dead zone between timelines. No recorded mission has entered and returned. Arion smiled faintly. Then we'll be the first. The chrono rift was a place of impossible beauty and terror. As the ship approached, light began to twist into ribbons, stretching into infinity. Whole galaxies folded in on themselves, blooming like luminous flowers before fading into dust. The rift was not a place, it was a wound in the universe, a place where all moments bled together. Crossing the threshold in 5 seconds, said the AI. Brace for temporal displacement. The Eclipsera plunged into the rift. For an instant, everything stopped. The stars vanished. The engines went silent. Time itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the world exploded into color. Arion saw thousands of versions of himself, standing, sitting, running, each in a different era, each living a slightly different life. He saw Lyra among them, sometimes alive, sometimes gone, sometimes smiling beside him in another world. The visions overwhelmed him. His mind felt like it was being torn in half. "Eclipsera, stabilize," he gasped. "Attempting recalibration," said the AI. But reality is fluctuating faster than calculation allows. Through the chaos, one image stood still, a vision clearer than all others. Lyra stood in the center of a glowing field, surrounded by the ruins of an ancient city. She was looking right at him. "Follow the light, Arion," she said, her voice echoing across centuries. "You'll find me where time was born." And then she was gone again. When the storm cleared, the ship emerged into calm space. The void stretched endlessly before them, silent and bright. But something was different. The stars looked younger, as though they had traveled backward in time. "Eclipsera," Arion said quietly. "Where are we?" "Based on stellar formation data, we are approximately 3 billion years in the past." He took a slow breath. "We've gone too far back." "Correction," the AI said. "We have gone exactly where the signal led." Through the viewport, a strange world came into view, a planet surrounded by golden rings, its atmosphere shimmering like liquid light. It looked alive, pulsing with energy. The signal was strongest here. "Prepare for descent," Arion commanded. "I need to see what's down there." The Eclipsera descended through layers of glowing clouds. Lightning danced across the sky, but it wasn't ordinary lightning. It was made of time itself, flickering between moments. The ship landed softly on a floating island of crystal and stone. Arion stepped out onto the surface. Gravity felt strange here, soft, uncertain, as though the ground wasn't sure if it existed. The air shimmered faintly. Every breath felt like breathing in the echoes of forgotten worlds. He took a few cautious steps forward. "Lyra," he called. His voice echoed strangely, repeating itself in delayed fragments. "Lyra, Ra. Then he saw it, a massive structure rising in the distance, built of translucent material that reflected entire centuries within its walls. It looked like a temple, though not made by human hands. It pulsed with the same energy that had led him here. As he approached, fragments of memory began to flood his mind. He remembered standing beside Lyra in a laboratory the day they activated the chronocore, the device that was meant to let them glimpse the birth of time. He remembered her laughter, her confidence, her belief that love could survive any distance. He remembered the explosion, the light swallowing everything, and her hand slipping from his. He clenched his fist. "I won't lose you again." The temple's entrance glowed softly, as if recognizing him. The walls whispered with voices, echoes of the past and future. "Arion," said one voice, clear and familiar. "You found it." He turned, heart pounding. Lyra stood at the entrance. She looked exactly as he remembered, her eyes bright, her expression calm but full of emotion. She wasn't a vision this time. Her shadow moved with her hair swayed in the faint wind. "Lyra," he whispered. "Is it really you?" "It's what's left of me," she said gently. "When the experiment failed, I became part of the time stream. My consciousness scattered through the cracks. But I've been waiting for you to find me." He stepped closer, his eyes glistening. "All this time, I thought I lost you." She smiled faintly. "You did. But love doesn't stop existing. It just changes shape." He reached out, his hand trembling. For a moment, their fingers touched, and he felt warmth, real and alive. But then, her form flickered like a dying flame. "Lyra, no. I can't hold this form for long," she said. "The rift's energy is fading. I brought you here for a reason." "Tell me," he said desperately. "Tell me what I have to do." She looked toward the heart of the temple. "Inside lies the origin engine, the source of all time. If you can repair it, you can stabilize the fractures. You can free us both." Arion's heart raced. "And if I fail, then we'll be lost forever." Her form shimmered again, beginning to fade. "Arion, promise me something." "Anything." Don't fix time for the universe. Fix it for us. Then she was gone, leaving behind only a faint trace of light that floated toward the temple. Arion stood there for a long moment, staring at the spot where she had been. His hands shook. The air hummed with energy. "Eclipsera," he said softly. "Prepare to analyze the structure." "Affirmative," replied the AI. "But Arion, based on readings, any attempt to access the core may cause full temporal collapse." He smiled faintly. "Then, I guess we'll just have to rewrite time itself." He stepped into the glowing temple. The light inside was strange. It bent and swirled around him, showing visions of every life he could have lived. 1,000 versions of himself reached out, whispering warnings, promises, dreams. But he kept moving forward, following the trail of light that Lyra had left behind. At the center of the chamber stood the Origin engine, a massive sphere of spinning light, cracked and broken, leaking fragments of time into the air. Every pulse from it echoed like a heartbeat. Arion placed his hand on the console beside it. "Let's fix what we started, Lyra," he whispered. "Together." The chamber trembled. The sphere flared to life. And time itself began to unfold. The chamber pulsed with living light, bathing Arion in waves of golden and blue energy. The walls of the ancient structure shifted and hummed, responding to his presence. Every movement sent ripples through the air, and the air itself seemed to breathe. The Origin engine stood before him, a swirling sphere of broken time, its cracks glowing like veins of starlight. For a moment, Arion simply stood there, overwhelmed by its beauty and its sadness. It was magnificent and ruined, powerful yet fragile. It reminded him of Lyra, brilliant, boundless, but now fractured between worlds. "Eclipsera," he said softly, touching the console beside the sphere. "Begin a scan of the core." The ship's voice echoed faintly through his earpiece. Scanning initiated. Energy readings off the chart. Structural instability detected. Probability of collapse at 72%. Arion sighed. "That's better odds than I've had before." He reached into the console's glowing interface. The light responded instantly, wrapping around his hands. The chamber reacted, the floor shifting beneath his feet, forming patterns that resembled constellations. Streams of light connected them, creating a map of the universe itself. As he studied the projections, Arion realized something. The cracks in the Origin engine matched the fractures in the window of the Eclipsera. Every tear in time, every distorted reflection, was connected. The experiment he and Lyra had conducted had created these scars. It wasn't just a machine they had broken. It was reality itself. He closed his eyes and remembered that day. The laboratory on Vareth was filled with excitement. He and Lyra stood side by side, surrounded by holographic panels and humming machinery. The Origin prototype spun before them, pulsing with soft blue light. "Are you ready?" she had asked, her smile bright. "As I'll ever be," he had replied, his heart racing. "This could change everything," she said. "We'll be able to see how time began, to understand creation itself." He had looked at her, not the machine, not the data, but her eyes. "Even if we fail, Lyra, at least we'll fail together." She had laughed. "You always say that. Let's just not fail this time." Then came the light, the explosion, the unbearable sound of time shattering. He remembered reaching for her hand. Then nothing. "Arion," the AI's voice brought him back. "There's something unusual in the readings." "What is it?" "Residual consciousness energy within the core. It matches Lyra's neural pattern." Arion's breath caught. "She's inside the engine?" "Affirmative," said the AI. "But fragmented. She appears to be distributed through the cracks themselves." He stepped closer, his heart pounding. Then, repairing the engine might reassemble her consciousness, the AI finished. However, the process could also erase her permanently if synchronization fails. Arion hesitated. The weight of that choice crushed him. He had spent centuries wandering through the void, haunted by her memory. Now she was here, but fragile, scattered like dust among the stars. Could he risk losing her again? He pressed his hand against the console, feeling the hum beneath his palm. "Lyra," he whispered, "if you can hear me, guide me. Tell me what to do." The chamber dimmed. Then, slowly, her voice echoed through the room. "Arion." It wasn't coming from his mind this time. It was real, resonating from the engine itself. Her tone was soft but filled with emotion. "You shouldn't have come here. The engine isn't meant to be repaired. It's meant to be reborn." "Lyra," he shouted. "You're alive, trapped but alive." "I'm only a fragment," she said gently. "You're still chasing what's gone." "No," he said, shaking his head. "You're not gone. You're right here." Her voice grew fainter. "If you try to fix the engine, you'll destroy yourself. The timelines can't sustain both of us." Arion clenched his fists. "Then I'll rewrite them. I'll change the rules if I have to." She was silent for a moment. Then she said, almost smiling through her tone, "You never learned how to let go, did you?" He smiled sadly. "I don't want to. Not of you." The console flared with light, and the entire chamber began to shift. The air filled with shimmering particles, memories, moments, fragments of their lives together. Arion saw himself and Lyra walking through the gardens of Vareth, laughing as they studied alien constellations. He saw them arguing over equations, building the prototype, dreaming of touching eternity. He felt her presence beside him, warm and familiar. "Lyra." "Yes," her voice whispered. "This is what we were. And this is what we broke." The Origin engine pulsed brighter, showing visions of the universe's birth, a cosmic storm of creation, the first light scattering across endless darkness. And within that storm, he saw the reflection of their experiment, two humans daring to touch what only the stars should hold. "Do you see now?" she asked. "Yes," he said quietly. "We didn't just open a window in time. We shattered the glass itself." The chamber began to tremble. The cracks in the engine widened, light leaking out like rivers. Alarms echoed in his earpiece. "Arion," the AI shouted. "Structural integrity dropping. We must retreat." "No," he yelled. "I can fix this." He began entering commands, trying to stabilize the field. The symbols danced across the interface, responding to his touch. But the system was far too unstable. Then he heard Lyra's voice again, calm amidst the chaos. "There's only one way, Arion. One of us must become the anchor." He froze. "What do you mean?" "If both of us exist as fragments within time, it will always stay broken. But if one of us binds ourselves to the flow completely, the other can be freed." He shook his head. "No. I won't let you sacrifice yourself again." "Arion," she said softly, "I've already done it. I became the engine's guardian. I've been holding time together all this while, but I can't keep doing it. The cracks are spreading." He took a step forward, voice trembling. "Then let me take your place." Her tone became sharp. "No. If you do that, you'll vanish. You'll become a part of the timeline, scattered across eternity." "So be it," he whispered, "if it means saving you." The light around him began to spin, responding to his words. The console pulsed with energy, recognizing his intent. "Arion," the AI cried. "This path is irreversible." He ignored it. "Lyra, you once told me that love changes shape but never ends. Maybe this is how ours continues." For a brief moment, silence filled the chamber. Then Lyra's voice came again, soft and trembling. "You're still the same foolish man who followed me into every storm. And you're still the light that guided me out," he said. The sphere began to open, revealing a glowing core of white light. Time itself swirled inside it, past, present, and future intertwining. Arion stepped closer, feeling his body start to fade. Lyra's image appeared before him, clearer than ever, tears glimmering in her eyes. "Please don't do this," she whispered. "We could still have another way." "There's no other way," he said gently. "You gave your life once for the universe. Let me give mine for you." He smiled, reaching toward her hand. "Through the cracks of time, I found you again. That's enough." As their hands touched, the engine roared to life. The light expanded, filling the chamber with pure brilliance. "Goodbye, Lyra," he said, his voice trembling. "Goodbye, my Voyager," she whispered. And then everything turned to light. When the brilliance faded, the chamber was silent. The cracks were gone. The Origin engine glowed smoothly, whole again. Outside, the universe realigned. The stars returned to their rightful places, and the flow of time steadied. The Eclipsera drifted quietly in orbit above the golden planet. The AI spoke softly, almost reverently. Temporal field stabilized. The fractures are healed. But Arion was gone. Only his voice lingered in the system's memory banks, a faint echo within the ship's logs. Through the cracked windows of time, it said, "I learned that the unknown isn't something to fear, it's something to love." Far below, in the heart of the temple, the sphere pulsed once, and within it, Lyra opened her eyes. She whispered into the silence, "Arion." And somewhere beyond the reach of time, he whispered back. The world was quiet when Lyra opened her eyes. The air shimmered softly with golden dust, and the walls of the chamber no longer pulsed with pain. They breathed calmly, as if the temple itself had found peace. She stood at the center of the hall, her hands trembling as she touched the smooth, repaired surface of the Origin engine. It was whole again, and so was she. But Arion was gone. The silence around her wasn't empty, it was heavy, like 1,000 unspoken words pressing against her heart. She closed her eyes, and for a moment she could still feel him, his warmth, his voice, the steady presence that had never once left her side through the centuries of fractured time. "Arion," she whispered, "you kept your promise." The chamber answered with a soft hum. A single thread of light unraveled from the engine, spiraling upward before weaving itself into a faint holographic projection. It was his voice. "Lyra," it said gently, "if you're hearing this, then the engine is whole, and I am part of it now. Don't be sad. This was how it was meant to be." Lyra's breath caught. She reached toward the projection as if she could touch him. "You always told me that time wasn't a line, it was a sea. Maybe you were right. Maybe we just have to learn to sail it, not fight it. I've left something for you. A path. Follow it, and you'll see what lies beyond the edge of the unknown." The light faded, leaving behind a glowing trail that led toward the exit of the temple. Lyra stood for a long moment, her eyes glistening. Then she nodded softly. "All right, Arion. One last voyage." Outside, the sky of the golden planet shimmered like liquid fire. The Eclipsera floated in orbit above, its hull gleaming faintly in the morning light. The ship descended slowly, responding to her presence as though it recognized her. When she stepped aboard, the corridors felt different, quiet but full of warmth, like a home remembering its owner. The AI greeted her in a calm, almost emotional tone. "Welcome back, Dr. Lyra." She smiled faintly. "So you remember me?" "Arion programmed me to," it replied. "Before his transition, he transferred command protocols to your neural signature. He said you'd come." Lyra closed her eyes. "Of course he did." She walked toward the observation deck, the cracked window now repaired, gleaming smooth and perfect. But as she looked closer, she saw faint patterns within the glass, ghostly shapes, like ripples frozen in light. Arion's reflection shimmered faintly there, smiling. "Eclipsera," she said quietly. "What's our course?" Arion's final coordinates point toward the boundary of map time, beyond the last recorded star systems. The unknown. Lyra's pulse quickened. "Then that's where we're going." "Understood." Setting course for the edge of existence. The engines flared to life. The ship lifted away from the golden planet, leaving the temple and its eternal light behind. As it ascended, Lyra gazed out the window. For the first time in ages, the universe looked clear. No distortions, no cracks, only endless space stretching in every direction. But as the Eclipsera accelerated, faint glimmers began to appear outside, fractures of light, softer than before, swirling in graceful patterns. They weren't rips this time. They were pathways. Days passed in silence as the ship journeyed through uncharted regions. Lyra spent much of her time reviewing Arion's recordings. Each one was a memory, a fragment of his thoughts before the final act. "I used to think the unknown was something we conquered," his voice said in one of them. "But maybe it's something we belong to. If time is infinite, then every goodbye is only temporary." His words filled the ship like music, and Lyra often found herself smiling through tears. She talked to the AI as if she were talking to him. "He always wanted to see what was beyond the edge," she said once. "Yes," replied the AI. "He said that if we could love what we don't understand, the universe would finally make sense." One night, if it could be called night in a place where time was fluid, the Eclipsera entered a region of complete darkness. No stars, no planets, no light. It was as if the universe itself had ended. "Eclipsera," she whispered. "Status? Unknown space. Sensors unable to register spatial coordinates. We may have reached the final horizon." Lyra stood before the window, staring into the dark. For a moment, she felt the same fear that had haunted her long ago, the fear of not knowing, of losing control. But then, she remembered Arion's words. "We belong to the unknown." She took a deep breath. "Let's go further." The ship obeyed. As they moved forward, faint lights began to appear, millions of them, scattered like sparks across the void. But they weren't stars. They were memories, echoes of every life, every moment that had ever existed. The ship glided through them like a dream drifting across eternity. "Arion," she whispered. "Is this where you are?" Then, from the speakers, his voice echoed faintly. Not a recording this time, but something alive, present. "Closer than you think." Lyra froze. "Arion, you made it," he said softly. "You followed the trail." Her eyes filled with tears. "You're alive? Not in the way you remember. I'm part of this now, the flow, the current of everything. But I'm still me." The lights outside grew brighter, swirling into beautiful patterns, like rivers of time converging into one stream. "You see it, don't you?" Arion said. "This is the heart of the unknown. Every possibility, every dream, every love, it all meets here." Lyra's voice trembled. "It's beautiful." "It's you," he whispered. "Your discovery, your faith. I just followed your light." She pressed her hand to the glass. "I wish I could see you." "You are seeing me," he said gently. "Every light out there, every shimmer, that's me. And you. And everyone who's ever reached beyond what they understood." For a long moment they said nothing. Only the hum of the ship and the sound of her breathing filled the air. Then his voice came one last time, soft as the wind. "Lyra, promise me you'll keep going. Don't stop here. The universe still has more stories to tell. More windows to open." "I promise," she whispered. The lights outside began to fade, and the ship drifted onward into a gentle, glowing mist. She knew he was gone again, but this time it didn't hurt as much. He wasn't lost. He was everywhere. She returned to the command deck, entering new coordinates with a calm, steady hand. "Eclipsera," she said, set a new mission record. "Recording," said the AI. "Title." Lyra smiled softly. Through the cracked windows of time, a Voyager's love for the unknown. The ship began to accelerate, heading deeper into the uncharted regions. Through the window, she saw the faint outline of new galaxies forming, young, fragile, and full of promise. And for the first time in countless years, Lyra laughed, a quiet, bright sound that echoed through the empty halls. "Let's go, Arion," she said. "There's still so much left to see." The Eclipsera vanished into the horizon, leaving behind trails of silver light that shimmered like the memory of two souls who had defied time itself. The stars ahead of the Eclipsera stretched like threads of silver silk, curving into spirals that faded into the deep void. Beyond that horizon lay something no Voyager had ever reached, the very end of time's current, the final shore of the universe. Lyra sat quietly in the captain's chair, watching as the stars flickered, then vanished one by one. It was beautiful, but haunting too, like the final notes of a song fading into silence. The ship hummed gently beneath her fingertips, a steady, comforting heartbeat that reminded her of Arion. Eclipsera, she said softly. How far until the temporal horizon? Less than 100 light minutes, replied the AI. After that, all known models of space-time ceased to apply. Lyra smiled faintly. Then we'll write our own model. Outside the window, the universe looked strange now. The laws of reality bent like mirrors made of water. Light moved in loops, showing fragments of the past and glimpses of possible futures. Lyra saw herself, older, younger, countless versions, all moving through moments that might have been. And through all those reflections, one face kept returning.
Arion.
She saw him smiling, reaching out, calling her name through the folds of existence. His image shimmered across the stars, and each time she blinked, he appeared somewhere new. She whispered, "You're still guiding me, aren't you?" The ship's console flickered softly. "Signal detected," said the AI. "It matches Arion's energy pattern." Her heart skipped a beat. "Patch it through." The speakers crackled, and then his voice came, clearer, stronger than before.
"Lyra,
You've come farther than anyone ever dreamed. The place you're heading, it's not an ending. It's where everything begins again." She leaned closer. "Arion, where are you?" "Everywhere the light bends. Every time the universe breathes. I'm part of the pattern now." Her eyes filled with tears. "I miss you." "Then keep moving forward," he said softly. "The unknown misses you too." The transmission faded, leaving behind a whispering hum, soft, infinite, and alive. Lyra took a slow breath and looked out the window. The cracked patterns she once feared were gone. In their place, the stars themselves had become the windows of time. Hours, or maybe eternities, passed as the ship glided toward the horizon. The deeper she went, the quieter everything became. No planets, no suns, no sound. Just endless light melting into shadow. And then at last she saw it. A luminous wall, vast beyond comprehension, stretching across infinity. It wasn't solid, yet it pulsed with the rhythm of creation. It was made of time itself, folding, unfolding, singing in colors no human eye could name. The origin stream. "Eclipsera," she whispered, awestruck. "Are we seeing this?" "Affirmative," said the AI softly. "We have reached the boundary of existence." Lyra stood slowly, her heart trembling. "This is what Arion wanted to show me." "Warning," the AI said gently. "Approaching the stream may result in full temporal assimilation." Lyra smiled. "That's what he did, didn't he?" "He crossed it." She walked toward the window, her reflection glowing faintly in the light. "He gave himself to it. To keep everything together." Then, as if answering her, the stream rippled, and from its surface, a shape began to form. It was made of pure radiance, but she knew that face, that presence, anywhere.
Arion.
He smiled, calm, kind, endless. "Lyra," he said, his voice echoing inside her mind, "you made it." She reached toward the glass. "You're real?" "Real enough." I became part of the flow. I see everything now. The birth of stars, the end of galaxies, the songs of time itself. And I see you. Her tears glimmered as they drifted in the air. "I thought I'd lost you forever." "You never lose what you love. It just changes form. I thought I understood that when I left, but seeing you here, I understand it now." The stream shimmered brighter, surrounding him in waves of light. "Lyra, the universe is ready to begin again. Every cycle ends so that it can start anew. The cracks you and I caused, they weren't mistakes. They were openings. Windows." "Windows," she repeated softly. "Then the universe will never stop growing." The light pulsed brighter, wrapping around the ship. The Eclipsera shuddered as the stream began to pull it in. "Eclipsera," Lyra called. "Hold the course." "Engines at full," said the AI. "But Lyra, if we cross this threshold, there may be no coming back." "I don't want to go back," she said quietly. "This is where he is. This is where the story continues." The ship plunged forward. The stream opened like a gate, its light flooding every surface. For a brief moment, Lyra felt weightless. No fear, no boundaries, just peace. She saw galaxies being born, stars singing, and the very heartbeat of creation itself. And within that blinding brilliance, she saw Arion reach out his hand. "Lyra, come and see what the unknown really is." She smiled, tears of joy and sorrow mixing on her cheeks. Always. As the new universe bloomed around them, Lyra's voice echoed softly across the void. "Through the cracked windows of time, we didn't just find love, we became it." The Eclipsera glowed brighter, carrying its voyagers beyond all beginnings and all endings into the forever light of the unknown.